faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we'll explore the second volume of Fan Shuzi's Late Ming History, 1573 to 1644, focusing on the factional struggles and the Ming Dynasty's final collapse. In the first volume, as discussed, during the Wanli reforms, the Ming Dynasty was militarily strong, winning the three great campaigns of Wanli. But the political factionalism grew increasingly vicious, hurrying the dynasty toward collapse. Factionalism meant power struggles between bureaucratic groups with conflicting political agendas or interests. Officials formed factions through hometown or school ties. They schemed against rivals for group advantage. Even emperors couldn't control it. This devastated Ming politics. Throughout Chinese history, Han, Tang, Song dynasties all fell due to factionalism. But Ming's struggles, especially in the late period, the most intense in history. Late Ming factionalism had two phases. First, the Wanli era, mainly intellectual battles through writings and debates. Losers just resigned. No life-threatening danger yet. But by Tianqi's reign, oh boy, it became a bloody power struggle. The eunuch factions slaughtered Donglin partisans. Let's examine Wanli-era factionalism. It had two stages. Early conflicts between Grand Secretariat and censors, notably the heir-apparent dispute. Later, clashes between Donglin Party and others. Key events, the three major cases: the staff attack, Red Pill, and palace transfer incidents. First, the Grand Secretariat versus censors. Remember, the Grand Secretariat was the emperor's advisory body, chief secretary being his top aide. Censors, established since Emperor Tazu's time to oversee 6 ministries' operations. Called 6 offices of scrutiny, they mirrored the 6 ministries structurally. The personnel, revenue, rights, war, justice, and works offices differed from ministries directly controlled by the emperor. Censors also held veto power. They could reject imperial edicts or ministerial memorials deemed improper, sending them back for revision. Beyond supervising ministries and vetoing, they nominated grand secretaries and ministers, administered imperial exams, impeached officials, and judged major cases. Wow, enormous influence. When Zhang Zhuzhang served as chief grand secretary, the Grand Secretariat's expanding power drew condemnation from the 6 ministries. To counter the 6 ministries' attacks, Grand Secretaries cultivated relationships with censors to control public opinion. Zhang Zhuzhen controlled the drafting responses, power, and collaborated with Feng Bao, the director of ceremonial, to tightly manage censor appointments. Thus, censors became virtual appendages of the Grand Secretariat. But after Zhang's death, the situation abruptly shifted. His successor, Chief Grand Secretary Shen Shixing, lacked Zhang's prestige and political finesse. Haunted by Wanli's posthumous punishment of Zhang, Shen constantly appeased the 20-year-old emperor, becoming his yes-man to secure his position. Meanwhile, he formed factions to build his power base. Censors gradually broke free from Grand Secretariat control, resuming their advisory and oversight roles. After a decade of suppression under Zhang, they fiercely criticized the Secretariat's overreach, and Shen retaliated in kind. The two sides became like fire and water, utterly incompatible. This conflict erupted during the heir-apparent dispute. The Globen means the designated crown prince. The heir-apparent dispute centered on selecting the crown prince, what we'd call appointing the heir. In imperial China, succession prioritized legitimate heirs first, then eldest sons. Legitimate heirs meant the empress firstborn. Eldest sons meant the emperor's oldest child. Empress Wang bore no sons. The eldest, Zhu Changlu, born to a palace maid, was disliked by Wanli, who never intended to make him heir. In Wanli's 14th year, his favorite consort, Lady Zheng, bore Zhu Changshun and was made imperial noble consort, second only to the empress. Rumors spread that Wanli would name Zhu Changshun heir and elevate Lady Zheng, signaling he'd bypass the elder son. Officials feared Wanli would reject the elder for the younger, Believing this violated tradition, they urged Chief Secretary Shen to petition for Zhu Changlu, but Wanli shelved the memorial, ignoring it. Qin Shixing now understood Wanli truly wanted Zhu Changsun as heir. Shen wanted to please Emperor Shenzong Wanli, yet feared angering the nobles. High officials, after much deliberation, Shen adopted a two-faced strategy, supporting the younger son before Wanli while pretending to uphold tradition before officials. Censors had the duty to advise frankly and opposed bypassing the elder son for the younger most fiercely. At the peak of the heir-apparent dispute, censors submitted countless memorials attacking consort Zheng, hundreds of petitions that overwhelmed Wanli. Chief Grand Secretary Shen Shixing then devised a plan for Wanli. He suggested Wanli issue an edict restricting officials' memorials to their own duties. Those ignoring their scope were forbidden to speak recklessly. All petitions had to go to ministry heads first for review. Only compliant ones reached the emperor. Wanli greatly praised this clever scheme. From then on, no one dared criticize Consort Zheng anymore. So the censors shifted their attacks to policy differences. Different officials. Censors gradually realized Shen Shixing was two-faced. They passionately petitioned Wanli, accusing the chief secretary of despicable behavior and duplicity, then rallied courtiers against the Grand Secretariat, turning the heir-apparent dispute into a conflict between the Secretariat and censors representing officials. Facing fierce opposition, Emperor Wanli evaded by saying Zhu Changluo was too young, then claimed the empress was still young and might bear a legitimate son later. By Wanli's 18th year, the empress bore no son. Unable to delay further, Wanli promised to appoint the heir in the 20th year. Meanwhile, Chief Secretary Shen Shixing, unable to bear censors' impeachment, resigned. His resignation marked the censors' initial victory over the Grand Secretariat. In Wanli's 21st year, successor Chief Secretary Wang Shijie followed the emperor's lead, suggesting influxing three princes, Zhu Changlu, Zhu Changshun, and Prince Duan Zhu Changhao. If the empress bore no legitimate son, they would choose the most virtuous among them as crown prince. Upon hearing this, censors were outraged and jointly impeached Wang Shiju, forcing Wanli to abandon the three-prince plan. Eldest son Zhu Changluo began studies. Wang Ziju also resigned under pressure. Censors won again, until Zhu Changluo was finally named crown prince in Wanli's 29th year, ending the dispute. During the dispute, censors used organization and ethics to impeach chief secretaries like Shen Shixing and Wang Ziju, leading to resignations and chaotic governance. Meanwhile, factions named after leaders' hometowns emerged at court. For instance, the Qi faction was represented by Qi Shijiao from Laiwu, Shandong. The Tu faction was represented by Ying Jin from Huanggang, Hubei. The Zhe faction was represented by Shen Yiguan from Ningbo, Zhejiang. The Swan faction by Tong Bin Mi from Xuanchang, Anhui. The Kun faction by Gu Tianzhan from Kunshan. The Zhe fraction's leader, Chief Grand Secretary Shen Yiguan, held power longest with greatest influence, so non-aligned officials often followed Zhe's lead. These five factions mostly comprised incumbent officials who formed cliques through regional ties, recruiting townsmen or schoolmates, promoting their own at all costs. They schemed to eliminate rivals and monopolize court power. Another consequence of the heir-apparent dispute was creating the famous Donglin Academy. In Wanli's 22nd year, Ministry of Personnel official Gu Shencheng was dismissed for opposing the delayed heir appointment. Back in Wuxi, he founded Donglin Academy to promote Neo-Confucianism, aiming to restore moral order through ethical cultivation. Thus, Donglin became a symbol of incorruptible scholars and moral exemplars. Many officials alienated from factions and Bu's early friends gathered at Donglin Academy through shared political and moral views, attending lectures. Moreover, some upright courtiers identified as Donglin members. Thus, by late Wanli, Donglin grew into an influential force. Initially, Donglin Academy focused solely on academics, avoiding court politics. But after the Li Sanchai incident, other factions labeled it the Donglin Party, igniting factional warfare. What was the Li Sanchai incident? In Wanli's 37th year, Minister of Revenue Li Sanchai, Gu Xiancheng's close friend, was recommended for Grand Secretariat vacancy. Court officials were then divided into warring factions. Li's talent and popularity threatened some Grand Secretaries, who launched a smear campaign against him. To prove his integrity, Li memorialized requesting resignation and seclusion. Yet, attackers persisted. The scholarly Gu Xiancheng, distraught over his friend's unfair persecution, wrote to Chief Grand Secretary Ye Xingao and Minister of Personnel Sun Piang defending Li. Unfortunately, Gu's private letters were published in the government gazette, politicizing them.
Public outcry ensued instantly. Li was accused of cronyism, thrusting Donglin Academy into the storm's eye.
In Wanli's 39th year, Censor Zhu Yigui and Censor Inspector Xu Zhaokui accused Gu Xiancheng of lecturing at Donglin while manipulating court politics remotely. They alleged Minister of Personnel Sun Piang favored Donglin in appointments, filling the court with Donglin partisans. Thus, an academy focused on lectures became a political force opposing non-aligned factions and began counterattacking. Thus began the late stage of Wanli factionalism, centered on the three major cases: the staff attack, red pill, and palace transfer. Although the red pill and palace transfer occurred within 2 months after Wanli's death, they were extensions of late Wanli factionalism, leading to the 43rd year of Wanli. Counting from Gu Xiancheng's demotion, Donglin and non-aligned factions fought intermittently for nearly 2 decades, accumulating deep grievances demanding reckoning. The staff attack case became an outlet for this pent-up hostility. First, the staff attack case. Although Zhu Chongluo was named crown prince in Wanli's 29th year, his position remained precarious. Wanli disliked him. Consort Zhang undermined him constantly. His treatment as crown prince was worse than an ordinary official's. He even lacked palace guards, setting the stage for the staff attack. And in Wanli's 43rd year, a man named Zhang Cha brandished a wooden staff and invaded the crown prince's quarters. Investigations later revealed he was directed by Consort Zhang's eunuchs. Public outrage surged. Donglin believed Consort Zhang tried to assassinate the crown prince. Non-aligned factions claimed Zhang was insane. Emperor Wanli mediated, and the timid crown prince didn't press charges. The case was hastily closed. After Wanli died, Zhu Chonglu ascended the throne. Donglin members, like Yang Lian, played crucial roles in Zhu Chonglu's smooth accession. Donglin influence grew stronger, but tragically, 10 days after accession, Zhu fell violently ill. He took a magic pill offered by Minister Li Keijuo, improved, then took another pill that afternoon, and died that night. Donlin's Gao Panlong and others blamed Grand Secretaries for presenting the pill, holding Chief Grand Secretary Fang Kongzhe especially responsible, provoking public fury. But non-aligned factions saw Donlin's accusations as opportunistic attacks on the Chief Secretary. This famous red pill case intensified factional strife. Meanwhile, Zhu Chenglu's favorite consort, Lady Li, occupied Qianqing Palace, attempting to control Crown Prince Zhu Yushao and dominate court affairs. The palace transfer case. Fearing her interference, Donlin's Yang Lian expelled her from Qianqing Palace. Non-aligned factions dismissed Donlin as alarmists, deliberately disrupting palace affairs. The court descended into chaos. After the palace transfer case, Wanli factionalism ended, ushering in late Ning's second phase, the bloody power struggles of Tianqi's reign. After Zhu Chengluo's death, Donglin members, like Yang Lian, secured the succession for his eldest son Zhu Yushao, who became Emperor Xizong with reign title Tianqi. Donlin's Lu Yuqin became Chief Grand Secretary, while eunuch Wang An served as director of ceremonial. Rong An had close Donglin ties. Their collaboration mirrored Feng Bao and Zhang Jusheng's partnership, so Donglin dominated court affairs in early Tianqi. Once empowered, Donglin appointed upright officials like Yuan Chonghuan. His rise to prominence came through Donglin's recommendation. They aggressively expelled non-aligned officials. With Donglin in power and rivals purged, Wanli's balanced factionalism became Donglin's monopoly. Meanwhile, Wei Zhongshan rose by murdering Wang An to become director of ceremonial. Defeated non-aligned factions flocked to him. Wei resented Donglin's attacks on his authority, so he readily allied with non-aligned factions, forming the eunuch faction. Wei, a former ruffian who self-castrated, became inseparable from young Tianqi, forging an exceptionally close bond. Leveraging Tianqi's trust, Wei conspired with the emperor's wet nurse, Lady K, to kill Wan An, then subjugated palace eunuchs. Despite being illiterate, he controlled the directorate of ceremonial by Tianqi's fourth year. In June that year, Donlin's Yang Liang impeached Wei for 24 crimes, but Tianqi's protection spared Wei, who launched vicious reprisals. The next year, Wei sent imperial guards to arrest 6 Donglin members. Yang Lian, Zhuo Guandou, Yuan Huazong, Wei Dazhang, Zhou Charui, and Gu Dazhang all died under brutal torture. In August, Wei ordered nationwide academy destructions, starting with Donglin Academy. To crush Donglin ideologically, Wei compiled edicts and memorials from the 3 major cases into the Documentary of 3 Reigns, blaming Donglin entirely. Under Wei's oppression, Donglin-affiliated officials were persecuted while non-aligned rivals returned. Even unscrupulous ones built shrines to Wei. The late Tianqi era became the darkest period in Ming Dynasty politics.
In August of Tianqi's 7th year, the Tianqi emperor died of illness at just 23.
With no heir, his brother Zhu Yujian succeeded through fraternal succession, adopting the Chongzhen reign title. Internally, the Ming treasury was empty, while popular revolts erupted constantly. Despite winning the 3 great campaigns, continuous warfare drained national resources beyond recovery. The state annually allocated 1 million silver taels to the palace. Yet Wanli demanded extra, 200,000 for sundries, 70,000 for horse fodder. In Wanli's 24th year, under pretext of palace construction, he dispatched eunuchs nationwide to mine and tax, sparking anti-mining tax rebellions through extortion. Meanwhile, wealthy landowners engrossed properties locally, widening wealth gaps until uprisings became inevitable. From Wanli's 27th to 42nd year, dozens of revolts and mutinies erupted nationwide, escalating into armed peasant rebellions in late Ming. Severe droughts, famines, and plagues prevailed. In Shanxi and Henan, consecutive droughts caused total crop failures. Cannibalism spread, forcing people to abandon homes and wander. Mass refugee movements fueled increasingly rampant plagues. The 1641 plague swept Hebei, Shandong, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, killing over 1 million. To survive, Yellow River Basin residents turned bandits or joined rebels like Li Zicheng and Zhang Xianzhang. Li's Shanbei uprising peaked after Changzhen's 6th winter, ultimately toppling Ming. In short, late Ming's violence began as grassroots revolts, grew into peasant uprisings, and ended the dynasty. With domestic revolts rampant, elite troops were tied down suppressing rebels within the passes. Meanwhile, northeastern border troops were depleted from aiding Korea against Japan, leaving defenses neglected. Manchu forces under Nurhaci rose swiftly, severely threatening Ming's borders. In Wanli's 47th year, Ming rallied 200,000 troops plus Korean allies for a full-scale Manchu assault, advancing in 4 columns. And most of you, Nurhaci concentrated his forces, declaring, "No matter how many routes you come, I strike one." Tactics focused on annihilating enemy troops. At Sarhu, Ming forces were defeated piecemeal and utterly routed. Oh, the Battle of Sarhu was a decisive conflict in the rise and fall of the Ming and Qing dynasties. After that, the Ming Dynasty lost its initiative in the northeast and had to switch to a defensive strategy. So, meanwhile, down in the southeast coast, Western colonizers kept harassing and invading as Ming weakened. Dutch colonizers seized Taiwan in 1624. On top of internal and external chaos, Chongzhen's first headache after becoming emperor was dealing with the arrogant Wei Zhongxian and Lady Kei, who dominated court politics. Lady Qi was Tianqi Emperor's wet nurse, ennobled as Lady Fengsheng. She colluded with Wei Zhongxing, spreading cronies everywhere. It was a tangled mess. Taking them down required clever tactics. Chongzhen first used Tianji's death as an excuse to kick Lady Kei out of the palace, since she couldn't stay as a wet nurse, splitting her from Wei Zhongshan to tackle them separately.
Wei Zhongxian sensed danger and threw his top man, Minister of War Kui Chen-shu, under the bus. Kui got dismissed and later killed himself. Then officials caught on and flooded Chongzhen with impeachment petitions against Wei. Under heavy public pressure, Wei Zhongshan claimed illness and resigned. But Zhongshan knew Wei's power wasn't easily broken, so he ordered Wei to guard the ancestral tombs in Fenyang, belonging to Zhu Yuanshan's parents.
Once Wei Zhongshan left Beijing, poof, he lost his power base there. Chongzhen immediately reinstated Donglin members and sent men to arrest Wei Zhongxian. Realizing it was over, Wei Zhongshan killed himself on the road. Lady Kei was dragged back, interrogated harshly, and beaten to death. 402 eunuch faction members were purged. Chongzhen wiping out this cabal was a shining moment in late Ming politics. But for the Ming Dynasty, it was just a final flicker before the end. After clearing out Wei Zhongshan, Chongzhen buckled down and tapped Yuan Chonghuan to crush the military threat in the northeast. Yuan Chonghuan was one of Ming's rare generals who actually beat the Qing army after the Battle of Sarhu. Hailing from Dongguan in Guangdong, he knew his way around Portuguese cannons. During the Tianqi era, Yuan Chonghuan defended Mingyuan in the northeast. With support from Xu Guangqi and Sun Chengzong, he fortified the city walls and added 11 Portuguese red jacket cannons, making Ningyuan the best defended fortress beyond Shanhaiguan. In Tianqi's 6th year, Sun Chengzong was dismissed, replaced by Gao Di from the eunuch faction. Demonstration turned fear. Following Wei Zhongxian's orders, he decided to abandon all cities beyond Shanhaiguan and retreat inside the pass. Only Yuan Chonghuan refused, holding Ningyan. Qing Taiyu Nurhaci seized this chance to besiege Ningyan with 60,000 troops. Yuan Chonghuan leveraged strong defenses and powerful red jacket cannons to win the Battle of Mingyuan, killing 17,000 Qing soldiers. Nurhaci was wounded in battle and soon died. Though Yuan had brilliant military achievements, his Donglin recommendations made the eunuch faction resent him deeply, leading to repeated retaliation. Though Chongzhen valued Yuan's talent, he was stubborn and unpredictably suspicious. After taking charge of Liaodong, Yuan executed P Island commander Mao Wenlong, making Chongzhen suspect he sought absolute power. In Chongzhen's 2nd year, Qing forces bypassed Shanhaiguan to besiege Beijing. Yuan rushed from Liaodong to rescue them, but the Qing sowed discord, getting Yuan imprisoned. Initially, Chongzhen considered Yuan irreplaceable. With Sun Chengzong's pleading, he didn't intend execution. But eunuch faction remnant Wen Tiran accused Yuan of Donglin cronyism, striking Chongzhen's deepest fear. Yuan was ultimately executed, dealing the Donglin faction a major blow. With Yuan Chonghuan gone, Ming lost its greatest general. Fortunately, Hong Taji was busy attacking Mongolia and Korea, giving Chongzhen breathing room to handle internal revolts. In October of Chongzhen's 8th year, peasant rebels burned Fengyang's ancestral tombs. Terrified, Chongzhen issued an edict of self-reproach, blaming poor appointments for uprisings and invasions. After Yuan's death, the only renowned generals were Yang Sicheng, Sun Chuanting, and Hong Chengchu. These three fought rebel armies for years. In Chongzhen's 10th year, new Minister of War Yang Sicheng proposed, pacify internally before resisting externally. Though Manchu cavalry harassed borders, Shan Haiguan and Ningyan troops were well-equipped and held strategic positions, maintaining temporary balance. But between Yellow and Yangtze rivers, the heartland, Li Zicheng's rebels ran rampant, demanding immediate action. With Chongzheng's strong backing, Yang Xicheng's internal first strategy achieved significant results. Thanks to Xiong Winkhan's vigorous appeasement in Huguang and Sun Chanting's relentless pursuit in Shanxi, Zhang Xianzhang's forces surrendered while Li Zicheng suffered heavy losses. Eliminating these threats seemed imminent, but negotiating peace with the Qing faced massive resistance. Back in Tianqi's 6th year, when Yuan Chengwan governed Liaodong, he'd probed Huan Taiji about potential peace talks. Huan Taiji also wrote to Yuan expressing hopes for friendly relations. In October of Tianqi's 7th year, just 2 months after Chongzhen's accession, Huang Taiji had southern Mongols deliver a letter proposing negotiations. After becoming Minister of War, Yang Xicheng leaned toward Qing negotiations to ease border pressure while tackling internal chaos. Yang aimed to recall elite northeastern troops to crush Li Zicheng's rebel army first, then turn back to resolve the Qing threat. Privately agreeing, Chengzhen dared not approve openly due to censor pressure. Yang memorialized again, urging him to ignore censors' grandstanding and empower border officials to negotiate. When discussed at court, hordes of censors accused Yang of treason. The talks collapsed, dooming Ming to total passivity.
In September of Chongzhen's 10th year, Qing cavalry breached the Great Wall. Beijing declared martial law.
Chongzhen ordered Hong Chengchou and Sun Chanting to defend the capital, leaving the Central Plains defenseless. Seizing this vacuum, Li Zicheng advanced from Shangluo into Henan's heartland, while Zhang Xinjiang revolted in Gucheng, rampaging through Chu and Shu regions. Yang Xicheng's strategy crumbled. Ming lost all initiative to turn the tide. Later, in May of Chongzhen's 13th year, Hom Chongchou led 130,000 troops beyond Shanhaiguan to lift the siege of Jinzhou.
But the Ministry of War demanded a quick victory, forcing Hong's army into total collapse.
This battle exhausted Ming's elite forces, who retreated to Shanhaiguan. With no main army left in the north, nothing could stop Li Zicheng's rebels. In early Chongzhen's 17th year, Li proclaimed himself king in Xi'an, founding the Ming Dynasty, then split forces to converge on Beijing. In this emergency, Chongzhen proposed relocating the capital to Nanjing.
Qing forces were still beyond Shanhaiguan. Li Zicheng occupied Shanxi. Zhang Xianzhang held Sichuan. Moving south faced no pressure.
Yet not a single minister dared support relocation, terrified of being branded deserters. Even when the situation became critical, Chief Censor Li Bonghua, a Donglin member, suggested moving south again. But political opponents fiercely attacked him immediately, forcing Chongzhen to abandon the plan. He also rejected having the crown prince oversee state affairs in Nanjing. In March 1644, Beijing fell. Chongzhen hanged himself, marking the Ming Dynasty's end. Though Chongzhen swiftly purged the eunuch faction and tried to resolve crises, the Ming Dynasty was already terminally ill. Chongzhen alone couldn't reverse the tide, especially with his stubbornness. He disliked upright Donglin members, instead appointing anti-Donglin grand secretaries like Wen Tiren and Zhou Yangru. Wen Tiren cultivated eunuch faction remnants to eradicate Donglin influence. The wrongful execution of Yuan Chonghuan, the biggest injustice of Chongzhen's reign, was orchestrated by Wen Tiren and his clique.
These officials only flattered Chongzhen, achieving nothing as rebels neared Beijing.
When Wu Senggui's Shanhaiguan garrison rushed to defend the capital, not a single minister suggested Chongzhen join Wu's camp. Even when desperate, he was turned away from officials' homes. Endless factionalism crippled border defenses while external threats diverted focus, preventing Ming from crushing internal rebellions. Li Zicheng capturing Beijing wasn't sudden. Ming's collapse was the inevitable result of decades of escalating social turmoil.
Late Ming marked China's great social transformation, economically integrating into global networks. Examining this globally is its first historiographic contribution.
It also echoes German historian Frank's theory of Asian economic centrality. Globalization theory long relied on Eurocentric perspectives, until 1998, when Frank's Silver Capital re-examined the East's role, proposing Asian economic centrality, that from the 15th to the 18th century, economic globalization centered on Asia with China at its core, overturning Eurocentrism. In support of this view, Fan Shuzi provides historical evidence for Asian centrality through late Ming's economic and cultural exchanges, enriching Frank's thesis. It also analyzes how globalization drew China into the world's currents. Ming China was the world's economic center then. Oh, and the author maintains objective fairness toward controversial historical figures and issues, and he lets historical documents speak for themselves, showing a historian's conscience and integrity. For instance, the author portrays Pirate King Wangzi as just a merchant wanting open maritime trade, not some vicious Japanese pirate, and Gu Xiansheng, not a Donglin political leader, but a scholar reviving some Ming Neo-Confucianism through moral cultivation. Thus, he argues Donglin wasn't a political faction. Of course, this book isn't flawless. As a late Ming history work, it should cover politics, economy, society, culture, thought, the whole package. Yet judging by its content, still mainly a dynastic rise and fall narrative, its economic coverage falls short. It inadequately addresses late Ming's agricultural and handicraft developments or merchant groups' roles, especially since massive silver inflows rapidly enriched major business consortiums. These merchant groups boosted long-distance trade and town networks, closely tied to the urban systems the author emphasizes. Late Ming's collapse wasn't just about political rot and infighting. Though Fan Shuzi highlights globalization, he doesn't deeply explore how global factors specifically caused Ming's fall. Recent 2 decades of research increasingly frame Ming's collapse as part of the 17th century crisis. This crisis refers to the 1600s global turmoil, wars, plagues, dynastic collapses everywhere from Ming's fall to England's Revolution and Europe's 30 Years' War. A key trigger was global climate change. Climate studies confirmed the 1600s were Earth's coldest century in 500 years, averaging 2 degrees Celsius cooler than now. In China, 1600 to 1643 marked the 5th Little Ice Age period. China's monsoon-dependent regions saw reduced rainfall from cooling, making the 17th century catastrophic for Ming. In the past 500 years, the longest of 3 persistent droughts had massive impacts on crop yields, especially devastating for northern China. Late Ming's northern megadroughts, locust swarms, and plagues accelerated the dynasty's collapse. Though this doesn't overshadow its merits. Right now, the world order is undergoing its most drastic shifts since the World Wars. Through this late Ming history, revealing historical upheavals makes us reflect. Ming's missed opportunities hold significant practical meaning for today. Well, that concludes our exploration of Fan Shuzi's late Ming history, 1573 to 1644, Volume 2. Study notes are below the audio. See you next time.